From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is not Jennifer. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicky.
I'm Jennifer.
Jennifer! Yay! Jennifer's here.
There's nothing quite like hosting a podcast for 400 times, and Vicky gets so excited when everybody except you comes on.
No, we haven't introduced him yet.
I know. It's coming though. So, with it being episode number 400, which for those playing the home game at home is a multiple of 50, we have our most frequent guest, I believe. We have the grand poobah of driving instruction and driver training and the best author of driving books and racing books that we can find. And we're still reading them for I think I'm on my fifth lap around. It's one of those books, like the more you read it, the more you get out of it, you know? The best part is you don't have to go to English class and figure out what the subtext was. It's very simple. Go faster, drive safer, do well. That's the long intro. It's Ross Bentley. Welcome back to the podcast, Ross.
Yay!
Yay!
I'm glad that you guys can count by 50 because I can't.
Yeah. Well,
otherwise I would not know when to show up.
Trust me, we'll come find you. Whether you respond on the email, that's up to you. But we'll come find you.
Right.
We're recording this one a little bit ahead of time because your schedule gets a little crazy coming up, but we're a little early. So some of this may come out after something that we're talking about, but that's okay. Yeah. Ross, I had a couple things I've added to our traditional 50 episodes with Ross. And this being getting close to the end of the year, our season's basically done. I think we've got like one HPDE. I thought there's no one more that I would like to talk about next year and next year's goals with than one Mr. Ross Bentley. So Ross, take us, make us your clay, form us into what you think. Can you guide us as an example for our listeners as to how we should come up with our goals and what they might be for next year? Because I got a great list of 50 things that I want to work on for next year, but perhaps that might not be the best way. I don't know. Could be.
Well, let me ask, where does have fun come in on your list?
Honestly, it comes in natural. I'm on the track. I'm out with friends and family, and it's not something I goal for. It just it's like luggage. You just kind of have it.
Well, but I know a lot of people that go to the track and they get so serious about it, and I wonder if they're actually having fun. Sometimes they think they're having fun, but I think sometimes they get just a little too caught up in thinking. They let their brain get in the way of just doing. And sometimes I wonder if they're having as much fun as they could if they just learn to relax a little bit more. Easy to say.
Oh, it is, especially when you care about what lap times are.
Yeah, but we don't care about that, right?
Not have you been on this podcast before, Ross?
So you're looking at what your goals are for next year?
Or how we would, I think it's more illustrative to go through what the process would be, but we could use us as guinea pigs, or as I like to say, guinea pigs, because that's how it's spelled. And, just an example, because I think it's important to have goals. What?
Well,
I think I broke Jennifer.
Just really.
Jennifer, you're my guinea pig from distance.
It's just, and the more I think about it, sorry.
She's never going to look at it the same way again.
No, I never will.
It does sound more sophisticated.
It does. It's like the French way, It's like, do you want pneumonia or do you want pneumonia? It's the same thing. Sorry, I've digressed.
Yeah.
The podcast, that's what we do.
Well, actually, let me start there. Is how important is it to have goals?
To me,
I know to you because you have lists over everything, right? Yeah, I've learned that about you.
If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, Ross.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I think it's interesting to think about that, and I'm not saying it's not important, but I wonder how important it really is. And you know, like I said, sometimes you just need to go to the track and you got one goal: have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Lap times matter, yeah. Positions matter if you're in wheel-to-wheel racing, yeah. All that kind of stuff matters. But have you ever been at the track, not had the best lap times or the best finish in a race, and still had fun?
Us, for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of worried there because there was like blank silence for a moment there. I was
They're
wondering,
still traumatized by my guinea pig, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I always have fun.
She
Yes.
does. She even had fun after she went to the hospital. She came back, and
I
it might have been the pain
I
pills, but
still say that was the best weekend that I ever had racing.
I tell you what.
Huh?
Why was it?
she hated that car.
Huh?
You hated that car. You
I
destroyed
love
it.
that
Got rid of
car.
it. I'm just kidding.
I
know.
love that car. It was a fast car. It was the fastest car that I had been in.
In
It was a
race, yeah,
fun car too.
It was a badass track.
it was.
Mhm.
Are you going to fill us in with details? Because not everybody, well, maybe everybody listening to the show knows the story, but
Oh no,
I've heard parts of it. I don't know the details.
It was
Oh,
a
details? Hold on. Go ahead, Jen.
It was the BMW, and we were at Charlotte,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
It was
and
our Deadpool car.
it was the Deadpool car.
First time
like-
out.
It was awesome, and you know what? It was like the first. It was really the first race we had like after a long period because of the shutdown.
It was COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was just so fun to get out with everybody again and just see people, and it was just a great weekend. Well, thanks, Bill.
Hey, no problem. I'm a host. I'm here to serve. So this is Jennifer's car in the front. We're watching from behind.
I'm watching. Uh-huh.
Then she goes over the hill, and then she decides to park it right against the wall.
Twice.
Twice, okay.
Yeah.
It took us a while to figure out what happened. I think we have a plan. But
Yeah. I think we figured it out.
Did the hill have anything to do with that?
I think so.
I think so.
The crest of the hill?
The crest
Yep.
of the hill got a little light,
Little lift of the throttle, maybe?
little lift of the throttle because that was oopy poopy. And then I believe there was a correction made
Yep.
and no pause, or maybe a pause. Maybe the pause lasted so long that there was no recover.
Mhm.
Looked like the car maybe kind of snapped out a little bit.
Yep.
Big correction, maybe a little overcorrection, a little overdoing it. Bill?
Yep. And the thing is after that happened, that accident happened, it was the first time that we looked around and realized that whole track had walls.
Everywhere.
We were having too much fun that we never noticed the walls. We were just driving.
We refer
We're
to it
just-
as a big boy track.
Yeah. It's
Do
like
you know what, Ross? We didn't notice the walls. We were just having fun.
we were.
Well,
But Jennifer made a good point about that accident because very early on during our race season, we had another car that Jennifer had crashed. I'm not, and I don't mean that bad.
Jennifer was driving and got into an accident. We'll go with
Right.
that.
But the thing is that Jennifer was so rigid behind the wheel after that first one, that after that second one happened, she said it was like somebody pulled the Band-Aid off. And the first thing Bill said was like, "Are you okay? Don't worry about the car." Because
I wasn't worried about the car.
No, not worried about a car at all. Because
If there's one thing we know, I can buy cars. That's not a problem.
right. So we put another one together pretty quickly. We got another one out there, and I'm like, "You cannot quit." She goes, "I'm quitting. I can't do this. It's the second time." But you know what? That's the thing about the Lemons cars too, though, is that they're non-committal cars.
Yeah.
You don't get invested in them, so it was fine. But I don't know, Jennifer. I just remember Jennifer telling me that.
Yeah.
That was
well,
the
actually, I mean, that's a good point. Is the number of drivers that go to the track with cars that they can't afford to do that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, they're driving, stiff.
Large fraction
Right.
of their budget.
They're,
Right?
they're all full of tension because they're
Right.
worried about hurting the car. And there's
Mhm.
nothing like going and driving a car that you don't really care about.
Mm-hmm.
I've been fortunate enough to drive a lot of cars that I don't really care about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but well, maybe a little bit. But
Only a couple earned it, right, Ross?
yeah, and no, they were not owned by rental car companies. Well, maybe a little bit, but yes, there might have been some rental cars involved with that, but
They were minivans. They're excluded.
yeah, and that's where I was going, I guess, was technically they were not cars. They were minivans, right? And anyways, slight off topic there, but there is nothing like driving a car that you don't really care about. So maybe a goal for next year is to continue to drive cars or make sure you're driving cars that you don't care too much about. And I'm not saying, don't care about them completely, but.
Well, it's good. I think in our instance, doing this, the way we're doing this is that it's a learning situation. So if we're learning how to repair the cars and we're learning how to wreck the cars properly and we're just learning.
I
And
agree
it's
with the
good.
first
Did I do
part.
it
I'm not
right,
sure.
Vic?
I think you did because you came back. No, but what I'm saying is that it's easy to walk away from a car, which is why we race in lemons for now in our
Right.
training level. And then we can level up as we get better. We can feel more comfortable getting into cars that, we feel more skilled in. We'll have a skill level when we go into those cars.
So I was just thinking about it. I was actually writing a little piece about this in some advice that many years ago when I was first racing Formula Fords in my first full season of racing. And I'd won a few races and I'd made a few mistakes. And along comes this older guy who had been racing at my local track for, I don't know, it seemed like 80 years, right? He'd been there forever. He drove a really cool car, but he drove in a car that I think maybe had 2 other cars in its class at most.
Mm-hmm.
And, so he might have collected some trophies along the way, but I don't think he really raced in a competitive class where he had lots of good fights and it really pushed him. And he came up to me at one point and he says, never, ever spin. You're never going to win a race if you spin. And, at first there was kind of like, okay, there's some good advice. And then I walked away thinking, actually, wait a minute. This is a guy who's never going to go anywhere in his racing because he is never, ever going to make a mistake because he never is going to push the car to its limits.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually took it, I called it my anti-advice.
You're
because it was,
anti-aha.
yeah, it was kind of like, okay, whatever that advice was, I'm taking the opposite of that.
Right.
And so I think, there's a goal, continue to keep learning, right?
Right.
For sure.
But you were right, Vicky, because when it was like a Band-Aid ripped off, because that was August. And then that next year we came back and we won our first race. Like
right.
It was like a whole different vibe.
Jennifer just relaxed after that. And
so it was different. Yeah.
Right.
So how much of that was, I can get away with a crash and it didn't hurt. Like it didn't hurt as bad as I thought it was going to hurt.
It hurt.
Not necessarily in a physical way.
I mean, it hurt,
but not like.
But right, you're right. Like it was, yeah.
Well, you saw how mad everybody was out here, right?
All right.
And the dynamics of the team were just great. Like it wasn't, I felt bad, but everybody's like, everybody's okay. I mean, kind of.
Yeah. We're like, don't worry about it. We'll go back and build another car. Right. It's fine. We'll just go get, whatever.
So it was that in itself, I think, was a learning moment for our team. I feel like that was it just played out really well because, it happens a lot on teams, you know what I mean? And sometimes it doesn't go well when the car gets wrecked, so.
Well, somebody had told me that one of the other racers, they said, when you're really pushing the limit of your car and you're trying to push a limit of yourself, it's not about if you're going to wreck the car. It's about when you're going to wreck the car. You don't want to, but you're going to do things to the car. So that's why we take the cars that we can walk away from.
Yeah.
And do this with.
Well, that's a smart way to go racing. I can tell you that I spent a lot of years racing in cars that I couldn't afford.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't afford to crash. And it had a negative impact on the way I drove.
Right.
And
Probably.
I wish, well, no, I don't have any regrets.
You drove some pretty cool
cars.
No.
But
you got some pretty cool cars.
But would I do it differently if I could do it all over again? Yes, I would.
Mm-hmm.
I would spend more time in cars that I could afford to walk away from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I think would have meant one of those little Matchbox cars. Pretty much my budget, I think. So yeah.
We're coming into this late, so
yeah.
We wouldn't, if we started early, we probably still wouldn't be able to afford them.
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, I always get funny when the kids are like, "Oh, it's I didn't start till I was 28." I'm sitting there going, "I was almost double that."
But, whatevs.
So Bill, going back to your question of the process for goals, the simple questions that I go through every single year, whether it's with myself or somebody I'm coaching, is first the very first question is, what do you do well? And I don't think enough drivers take enough time to really think about that and really focus on and thinking about deeply as to what do they do well as a driver. And that could be, in the car, out of the car, all that kind of stuff. What makes up a good driver? But I think really taking the time to think about what it is that you do well, because if you can just do more of that, things are probably going to work pretty well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the number of times that it's actually kind of humorous in a way, that the number of times that I've asked a driver, what do you do well? And somebody go, well, I'm not a bad racer, but I really got to work on my braking, or and it just goes off on this tangent to the opposite of what do they not do well at?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of drivers struggle with really identifying what it is they do well. So that's where I usually start. Then the second question is what is it that you would like to improve in your driving? And thinking about it as both, again, in the car and out of the car, because out of the car could be to Jennifer's thing of being a good supportive teammate and co-driver. You could be a great driver, but if you get out of the car and you abuse your co-drivers, that's not very good. So sometimes it's what do you do outside of the car as well? So I start there, and then then the third question is, if there was only one thing that you could do differently, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
So I always go through those three questions, and if somebody contacts me today and asks me to come and coach them, those are the questions I'm going to ask them to start with, because then it immediately just kind of focuses. Well, as a coach, it focuses me in on what can I do to help. And sometimes if I hear enough of the what are they doing right, and I think there are things to work on in terms of just emphasizing those and getting the driver to do more of those things, that's going to be all my focus. That's going to be what I'm going to put all my attention on, is helping them do more of what they do well. And by the way, that's fun.
Yeah.
So ladies,
there was one thing that I've been working on a lot in my own personal life, and it's also resonating a little bit with my racing, and it's really kind of changed my thought process on stuff. And that is addressing the things that are hangups for me, things that are holding me back in the racing, And instead of saying, oh, well, I just need to work on that. But you really, and we discussed this at one point too. And this goes in everyday life too. And it's like, well, why are you nervous about that?
Mm-hmm.
And then you answer that question. Well, I am afraid of going off the track. So what's on the other side of the track? Grass,
The chicken.
Right? Whatever. So
One of those Guinea pigs. Yes.
Right.
Guinea pig.
But,
Could be a guinea pig.
yeah. Guinea. So Jennifer's lost it again.
I'm sorry, I just can't.
They're so
Guinea
popular. They
pig.
named an island after it. It's called New Guinea.
Stupidest thing made me laugh.
But I mean, just to keep asking those questions until you realize that you really don't have a lot to fear if all those proper barriers are in place to help you and to stop you to make it safe. I mean, of course, you don't want to push your limits when you got two cars side by side with you. I mean, that's a little different and you're trying to do what you got to do. But I mean, if you're open track and you got these things that are really holding you back, or whether it's sensory, whether, these fear-based things that you have possibly with racing, just keep asking the questions. Well, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen? And then you realize you don't really have too much to really fear if you're on a training track, because of safety things that are already in place that your car can run off into. So
Vicki, you've just outlined the secret to being a coach.
Oh,
just keep asking questions.
I've been doing that like in my everyday life. Like, why am I nervous about like doing this with the car? What's the worst that can happen? And that's fixing the cars or like going head in on stuff. And I'm like, well, what's the worst can happen? I call a friend over and say, hey, I did this. And instead of just having all these things that keep holding me back, you just do it. And what's the worst that can happen?
Can you stop asking why am I still here though? It's getting old.
Yeah. No, but I think you're absolutely dead on right in when you ask, or when I ask the question of what do you do well?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody says I'm good, I have good racecraft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't end that conversation there. I go, okay.
Yeah, like what does that mean?
Well, yeah, what does that mean? What is good racecraft to you? Is that, are you good at passing? What about how are you at being passed?
Mm-hmm.
How are you at thinking about the whole strategic aspect of the race? Do you think about are you really just focused on, I got to pass that car in front of me? Or are you thinking about the whole race overall? So there's all those other things, and you just keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And
just keep dissecting until you get to a core of, this, I am good at this, or this is my problem. And, and I can, if now that I can identify it and it doesn't seem as scary because now the other way around is like, if you just keep asking those questions and you get to a core, you get to a root of something, and then you could address it positively or not negatively, but you can still address it. You can keep addressing it and improve upon it.
It's the same as when you're thinking about what is the car doing in terms of its handling. The more often you keep asking, what is it doing, and where and how and all those kinds of things, eventually it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I know what to do. I know what to do to change the car to fix that problem.
Right.
But if you just say, well, the car oversteers, that's so vague.
Right.
How do I fix that? Like,
right.
Yeah, that's a pretty big Band-Aid you need to put on, the big oversteer Band-Aid. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh.
Bill's, you're muted, honey.
I know. That's why my jokes were getting so much uproarious laughter, because nobody could hear them.
Yeah.
Very well. So ladies, what would one thing be that you guys want for next year? What would one goal be? Just one.
Sensory for me. I'm getting for my big hang up is sensory.
Explain that.
Well, it's the level of speed sometimes that I still have to the end of the runway, or I work on my garage is on an airport, so forgive me. But at the end of the track, the straightaway, and I've gotten so much better because I put my eyes up.
Yeah.
And I keep telling myself, eyes up. Now at the end of the straightaways, I always tell myself, eyes up, eyes up, eyes up, and it doesn't look so scary anymore. And focus on the apex and the turn in and the track out. More focus on the track out, as you're going in, and figure out where you want to be. And it's taken more sensory. It's downplayed more of that sensory. So,
So right now you get to the end of the straightaway and it's like things are happening fast and it's a blur and you're like, can I process all this stuff? And that's what's going on, right?
Right. It's processing and moving, but now a lot of that stuff is moving into the background, which is great. Yeah. And now I just keep reminding myself, just eyes up, and the track is a lot smoother when you have your eyes up.
Yeah.
It really is funny, right?
Yeah. The
What's
other
the matter with you people out there?
Yeah. They've never heard that before. They've never heard the idea of looking further ahead. No, never been stressed before. Yeah. Not once. Yeah.
But when it clicks, when it absolutely clicks, then
I would say that is the single thing that has helped me is just simply just looking up.
And but you got to remind yourself to do it. You really do.
Yes.
If you're not used to doing it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it on a real road.
So
too.
one way of addressing that is to drive a much faster car.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bill, I know you like buying cars. I think you should
if
go
I
out
have
and
to
buy.
For you, Ross, no problem.
I don't know. Go buy a new Porsche GT3 cup car.
I will have it and move in with you, Ross, if that's okay.
If you have a GT3 cup car, yes, come and live with me. Yeah.
Sorry, Vic.
So
I know my workload. You will not believe my workload right now in that garage.
You're familiar with Sunday Cup from Grid Life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's better than one Sunday Cup car? Two Sunday Cup cars.
Yeah.
So he wants to compete.
I do against Vicky. We've never done it.
I haven't heard this.
Jennifer, we got some catching up to do.
You tag out for 50 episodes, you get way behind.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the more you drive a faster car, you'll get into your normal car. Just go and spend a session in a very, very fast car, and then you'll get into your usual car, and all of a sudden it'll be like, I feel like I can step out and walk along beside the car.
That's right, because that is a perfect scenario when you get off the track and you're driving home.
Yes.
After you spent an entire day, well, not with the trailer. Yeah, the trailer too, but but coming off the track and you get into your car and you're trying to go 60 miles an hour or whatever the speed limit is. And next thing you know, you're doing apexes on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're turning it into a rate. But I imagine it's the same thing. It's just the car seems so much smoother after you come off really pushing speed.
And obviously that's not, I mean, go out and spend $750,000 on a new fast car. That's not a good option for everybody.
No, it's not.
The good news is that on a simulator,
mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know what's the most expensive car that iRacing charges for, a few bucks or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's less than $5. I think.
Yeah. Remind me again how much time you spend on a simulator.
Well,
funny you should mention that.
Jennifer, when are you moving up here?
That way. We just got one delivered today, Ross. We have to put it together now.
Did you? Oh my gosh, I have missed so much.
Well, you
snooze, you lose, Jen.
Wow.
You should listen to the podcast and find out what your sister's up to. That would be a good idea.
Yeah, Jim told you an airplane hit my hangar, right?
I saw the pictures.
Yeah.
But go back?
What? An airplane hit your hangar?
Yeah.
There's a story that needs to be told.
Okay, let me go ahead, Bill.
Well, just describing the situation that we have one hangar where we do most of our work in, and it's the closest building to the runway, but by close,
and it's pretty far.
We mean like a quarter of a mile. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's not close, and it's like 2 or 3
Well,
layers.
I wouldn't say quarter mile, but
Quarter mile. It's quarter mile.
Hmm.
And it's got 2 or 3 like layers, like to the taxiway, and then the other kind of the secondary taxiway, like the hangar runway.
Yeah.
And then there's our
they're
hangar.
kind of tiered.
Yeah. So a guy was taking off what I would call looking at our hangar to the right. And all of a sudden he just decides that, hey, that hangar looks nice and juicy. And he flies into the hangar. His one wing catches our hangar door, and then it pirouettes the plane and hits the next hangar other door.
Punctured it.
Yeah, just went
Wow.
like right through. And
Wow.
luckily,
My hangar door was shut.
yeah, luckily the hangar door was shut, and double lucky was Vicky was out walking our dog Zoe, so she
Mhm.
wasn't even there. But usually the
Yeah,
hangar door's
I
up.
was when I go to
Wow.
the hangar and I go with my dog, we do a morning loop, and then we come in and we start, and that's what had happened. And I was going to go in there, and I was going to move the BMW out because that's one thing I was working on, and bring in the HPDE track cars, just our little daily drivers and stuff. And I was going to get them ready, and I was walking back to the hangar, and one of the guys that works on the field was like, "There's a situation in your hangar," and I'm like, "What?" So I thought I did something, like, because it's a air hangar and we're a car, garage, and I always feel like I'm on borrowed time there anyway. And I'm like, oh, geez, what's going on, right? And that's what happened. I mean, this guy he was
Wow.
taken off and just took a hard left and just come barreling down the hill. And I guess he was trying to stop, and he couldn't. He wasn't flying. He was rolling. I mean,
Huh.
He got airborne a little bit, but
Was he okay?
He
yes,
was
he's
fine.
he's fine.
He
The
was
plane probably
fine.
needs a little work.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Wow.
there's $35,000 worth of damage on that plane.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
It was a cap plane. It was a Civil Air Patrol,
Hmm.
and he was doing, yeah.
Huh.
I was like, there's bad juju in the air, because we've had so much
Yeah.
stuff happen. We've
Huh.
had so much stuff happen. It's crazy.
And that has led to a simulator. Okay. That makes
Okay,
sense.
back to the
No,
simulator.
that's a different story. So
Yeah.
So I have, we've got 2 things going next year that we've never done before. We're going to do Sunday Cup, which is basically sprint racing or time trials, time attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am doing something that you've done for the first time in a Sunday Cup car. I'm going to be doing the 1 lap of America.
Ah.
So I was thinking, hey, it would be a good idea to stay sharp through the winter. So we have upgraded our sim game.
He's going out with his bro friends.
That's
to
right.
go do that.
So those are the 2 things that we're doing that are different. So that's why
Mhm.
we thought we'd upgrade our sim game. So we talked to somebody who's really good at sim racing, and he said, some of the problems that we may have with our system. So we're addressing those,
Okay.
and then we're going to try to figure out why the global MX-5 Cup car feels like it's driving on ice, because I think we had some of our settings wrong, or
Okay.
I'm not sure. So we'll figure it out. But he said, no, it drives just like one. I'm like, I have one. It drives nothing like this.
Right.
So we're going to figure out what we're doing. And,
Yeah, for sure. The settings make a big difference there. And it's great that you're driving that MX-5 in the sim, but I would recommend at times drive a Formula 1 car, drive an Indy car, drive a
Mhm.
prototype car, drive something really, really fast, and spend enough time to the point where it's like you're getting comfortable with how fast it is, and then go back and drive your car
Mhm.
and see how
Mhm.
things change there.
Yeah, Vicky did that one time at an HPDE event. She went out, I think she was driving her Miata. And then she went out for a couple sessions, and we have a E46 M3, which is a little different than a Miata. Not a lot,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
crazy. It's just compared
What
to a
a
Miata.
difference. I got back in that Miata and I was sailing
Yeah.
after
See?
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to Ross. He's the man.
Listen to Ross. He's the
Yeah, yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So did we get a goal out of you, Miss Vicky, or no?
My goal right now is still working on my sensory and my end of the track and eyes up. And everything else has really been starting to come into play really nice. I mean, I leveled up into 3 really fast. And I already don't have proximity issues with other cars.
Hmm.
I don't. And So that is still my big strong bonus for that. And the other thing too is I'm going to start moving into this next season coming up. I'm going to be doing, what is it, with the pedals,
Heel toe.
I'm working on heel toe next. So
Can you work on that in your simulator?
Yes, we can.
Nice.
yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can. What about you,
It's
Miss
behind
Jen?
me.
What are you thinking?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta go.
Yes, you.
I feel like it's been a while since we've been on the track.
Yeah, it has been. You know, we have some front wheel drive cars
We do.
Mm-hmm.
that I have driven once,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not twice. You're right, twice.
Yeah.
So still not really used to that. And
Well, luckily, you have one coming to the event next weekend.
yay. Yeah. So that for next year is really kind of getting used to that, because yeah,
What's the difference to you?
it's a pull, not a push.
Yeah. Okay. But
That's what I keep saying when I'm driving it on the
And I have
turns
to
now.
keep saying that as I'm driving
Right.
it in my head.
Right.
But what is that? What impact does that have on your driving? I mean, it's still got 4 tires, right?
I know. No.
You still
Yes, I mean
turn
it
with-
does.
Yeah,
But it's different. Like if you're going fast into a turn, it's different because it's a pull, not a push. It just responds differently.
Mm-hmm.
Lies.
When things don't work out.
No, you
Yeah.
told me it didn't, and it does.
yeah.
I feel like it's fine. It's not that much different.
Just go.
Yeah. Yeah, but
How hard can
after
it
after we figured that out, then that
But
started
that does help.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You got to keep telling yourself that.
Yeah, every corner. Push,
Yeah.
not pull, push, not pull, push, not pull.
Mhm.
Can
I mean,
you get
obviously,
into-
the big difference is those front tires are doing all the work, right?
Mhm.
Right.
They're
Yes.
doing the majority
Yeah.
of the cornering, the majority of, doing all the acceleration, and they
So
even do the majority of the braking too.
right. So having driven rear wheel drive cars this entire time and learning, because racing, it's different. It is a little different. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And it just means you just got to keep on the gas and feather the gas is what I've
so you just
discovered.
I need some seat time in front wheel drive. That's all.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of the track thing, like Vicky talks about, it's a little unnerving for me still. I don't know. Bill probably knows better than me.
I
He's
have a
got the
list.
data. He's the data man.
I have
Yeah.
a list for you
Oh,
guys.
I haven't noticed that.
You haven't.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not once. No.
Well,
no.
when he brings his car over and moves in, he's going to bring all his data.
Yeah. Yay. Yeah.
Because Ross doesn't get enough data for his real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a one-off year for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've had things that are happening in our daily schedules that has made as getting to the track for HPDEs not as fruitful as it was. And it's temporary. But so most of our driving, we've only done a couple HPDEs, not very many like we used to. I mean, we used to pound HPDEs there for a while.
Still
But
can.
yeah, we can, but we got kid and they have their situation on their end. So, but
There's still parental units.
yep. But anyway, we are going to the HPD this weekend, and we've been really using our track time at the race events to really not just race, but really exercise these things in real
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
I mean, it all started like this, Ross,
Uh-huh.
Look at me.
Look at
That's
that hand at the 12 and
That's my first time out.
shift knob.
How far I've come. Bill is showing a video of me Sunday driving, guys, on the racetrack at
It's
HPDE.
a good thing that you're holding on to that shifter. Otherwise, the whole thing
would've
would have
moved.
fallen off. Right?
Sunday.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
But you did all right, Vic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You did pretty darn good.
Listen, I wasn't racing. I was just driving that
You're
track.
still on the pavement here.
Left hand at 12, right hand at shifter. Yeah.
Yep. You don't know
Left
what you
hand at
did.
3:00 now.
Yeah.
But it's in a turn, so
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
You need one of those big knobs on the steering wheel there. So
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Bill
It's
reminds
tough.
me frequently how far I've come.
yeah.
It's tough when you got to get the milk and the bread while you're on the track.
That's right.
Hey Jennifer, I want to go back to the front wheel drive thing for a second.
Okay, please.
And while there are some differences in the dynamics of the weight transfer and which tires are doing all the work and all that kind of stuff, I think the mindset of, oh, it's totally different can cause some problems.
Yeah.
I think just going, it's just another car.
Mhm.
It's still got 4 tires on it. My job is just to kind of drive it so that the tires are at or near their limit, and don't get overly concerned about, oh, it's pulling and not pushing, or it's front wheel drive, it's not rear wheel drive car. Just drive it.
Yeah. So I think that it's not really. Let me try to think about how I want to say it. So if it's going around a turn and then making a correction and it doing something different than what I'm used to a real world drive car doing. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like it's that extra, because I guess driving the rear wheel has become more of a muscle memory thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't for a long time. Whereas with the front wheel, I kind of have to think a little bit more because it's pulling in a direction that I'm not used to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That
That's-
makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, part of it is that if you drive enough cars, you're going to find as big a difference between 2 rear wheel drive cars as
Mhm.
there is between a rear wheel drive car and a front wheel drive car.
And Bill's making sure that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I have my job. I've only been threatened to be fired once or twice.
So you have that ex Formula One car, rear wheel drive car.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah.
I did not say what state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, it's important not to
Overthink it.
and psych yourself out in a, oh, this is totally different, I got to drive it. No, you still, you
Yeah.
turn the steering wheel in the same
Wait.
direction to go to the right and to the left, right?
Yeah. And what turn specifically kind of unnerved me a little bit was the octopus. That
At Thunderbolt.
one on the back of the track in New Jersey. It just really, every time I came around that corner, we just kind of slipped.
On the incoming part
Yep.
of the octopus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tricky section anyways, because
It was right.
kind of-
And in a car that I wasn't familiar
Yeah.
with. Yeah. So yeah, like I mean, I've only driven it twice, and like I think next year it'll be. I'm excited to learn. You know what I mean, and drive it and be more comfortable with it. So yeah, that's a goal.
Okay,
Big goal.
Mm-hmm.
that sounds a good goal.
Just say yes, Jen.
Yes.
Just say yes.
Yes.
Jen. Yes, Jen.
Yes, Jen.
Yeah. What about you, Bill? What's your goals?
Mr.
Oh.
Bill.
How many?
You probably have a
wipes?
Spreadsheet.
Right? The spreadsheet.
I'm getting my phone out. Yes.
Yeah.
He has it on his.
I do. Well, I think the big one is we drive endurance racing in largely cars that aren't particularly special in terms of performance. So we typically drive more at like the 0.8 for hours as opposed to something approaching a qualifying lap or anything like that. So I think between one lap of America, Sunday Cup, and doing a few more higher level endurance racing series next year, I want to make an effort to go past my standard comfortable, I can do this all day lap and push the limits a little bit. Because like, I don't go off the track. I don't spin. I just don't, I have gotten into one accident that was very recently, and I still don't quite know what I could have done. I know I could have done it, but I didn't expect the car to do what it did, and then it was over by the time that happened. So I just, contact is something I hate on track. Like if we could do racing and contacting was like an automatic suspension, I would be much happier because bodywork sucks. So, but I want to find out what's past where I'm comfortable.
That's interesting. That's a really, well, I think it's a great goal, because there are a lot of drivers that race in endurance racing who I don't think are comfortable pushing for that last little bit of speed if they need it.
Mhm.
And
Well, I think it'll make let's say I run at 8/10,
yeah,
and that means 10 is full throttle, right? But that's my limit. If I go further from what I think is 8/10, I think my 10 will get to higher number. So when I return back to my standard, comfortable endurance racing 8/10, it'll be 8.2 or
Yeah.
whatever more. So it'll effectively be more. So I think it's a win-win-win, but it's just part of the sport that I've never really explored. I think, I have this interest in Sunday Cup cars. And I think one of them is you can explore the limit on a turn in a Sunday Cup car, but you can't explore the limit on a straightaway. Well, you can, but you'll be there for a while. As opposed to, as cars get more and more capable, there's some certain cars where exploring the true limit of that car gets to scary speeds. And a Sunday Cup car is kind of maybe it's a training wheels way of getting to the limit, but I think it'll be fun.
well, I think there are a lot of times where drivers will get to a certain point with a lap time, let's say.
Mhm.
Let's say their lap time is 1:30, and they'll try to go faster to get into the 29s, and they'll struggle and they won't get there. And my advice a lot of times at that point is, don't worry about trying to go faster. Just get more consistent at turning 130s.
Right.
Because if you can just turn 130 all day long, I know for sure they're going to slip into the mid 29s.
Sure.
Well, you can turn that around the other way around as well. Is if you're comfortable turning 129s all day long, and you can do it all day long, every now and then you got to go and push for a 128. And I think that's what you're talking about, is you've been really, at least that's the way I'm reading what you're saying, is you've been really comfortable turning these 129s.
Mhm.
But if it's like, I got to turn a 128, that's a tough thing to do. So I think what you're doing is really smart. Is there's a time to work on consistency, and there's a time to work on just go get messy and drive the wheels off the car.
Mhm.
And you need to keep inching both of those up as you go. Otherwise, you just get in a routine of all you're ever doing is pushing for that one lap time, and you're not very consistent, or you're super consistent, but you're not really that fast. So
Right.
It's like I said, each one of them, keep pushing them. So
Yeah, and it's just, when we started this, we always wanted to do like cross training. So we would do endurance racing and HPDEs and autocross training and skid pads. And now we're going to try, we've never done, sprint racing or time trial racing. So we'll see. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So what are you driving in one lap of America?
It will be one of the Sunday Cup cars. We're going to be one of the few, the proud, the slow.
Okay.
And, we're going to go see how it is. So it's either going to be Vicky's Fit or my Mini, and it all depends on. Vicky's not allowed to touch the Mini, so I'm going to be prepping
that means mechanically.
mechanically.
which
Yes,
is going to be hilarious.
Yes. So odds are I'll be taking the Fit, but we'll see.
Yep. Bill's very much bring a sledgehammer when you need a screwdriver. So I'm going to be watching this. It's going to be pretty funny.
Might be some parts. There might be some parts.
There might be some parts
flying across the room.
Well, hopefully you don't need to do any mechanical work during one lap.
I'm hoping not, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
We're gonna have fun. Are you a last minute decision there, Mr. Bentley?
I don't know. I've got to look at calendars again. In fact, I think I do know.
May 5 through something.
Yeah, with it that first week or so of May, there's usually an IMSA race that weekend. I think it's Laguna Seca is the first weekend of May or end of April. I think it conflicts with something there, the IMSA schedule and coaching at next year. So
I'll try and keep it warm for you, Ross.
Yes. When I did it, not last year, the year before, it was one of those weird years where it just worked out right, that there was there were no conflicts with my coaching gig. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, you had to slum in that car you took, but it was tough.
yeah.
But
Yeah, Mike forced me into that. What a great car! And I have to say, I mean, it was a awesome event. It really is a great experience, adventure, and the driving is only part of it. In fact, if you add up the amount of time that you actually drive on a track, it's some tiny little percentage of the whole event. But
sure.
I don't know. I think one of the highlights was Mike and I, where were we? I think we were heading to New Orleans, I think. And we pull off into a gas station off the side of the highway, and just, a random gas station. And we pull in and we're going to grab some quick food. And Andy and Ann Hollis are in the same gas station filling up. And, and then on another gig between stints and between tracks, I think we ran into the Ogburns, and I mean, it was like these random places you meet these guys, and other times you're blasting down the highway and you meet up with 3 or 4 other cars are already on the route as well. So that whole part of it, and the meeting up with other drivers and getting to know them, that was one of the highlights of it for me.
There's a bunch of people who are signed up already. Like we've talked to, like, through the podcast or Instagram or whatever. But it's nothing like meeting them in person. So
yeah, you're gonna have a blast.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, I highly recommend a comfortable car.
Well, neither one of them are exactly plush, but we'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
And practice your packing.
Yes. That's why the Fit may win, because it's a little more minivan like.
Yeah.
It's like a minivan.
Yeah.
Essentially. So
we're gonna run it in a.
Sorry.
We're gonna run it in a road rally too. The girls are.
Okay.
When it's ready.
We shall see. All right, Mr. Bentley, you made it to our first question. It's only taken us an hour to get there.
Wow. That was a tough one, because I don't know what my goals are for next year yet.
Yeah. What
are your goals?
Yeah. Do you have
Ross?
anything, Ross?
You've
done so much.
So I do actually. So one of my goals is, I have a goal for the driver that I'm coaching. We have a goal, and that is a championship. So that's very high on the priority list.
I can take care of that. You just race against us, Ross. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Just need to pick the right championship to go after, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, we raced against Garage Heroes in Training Invitational, and we won. Yeah. No problem.
I have a goal to switch up a few of the things I'm doing business-wise. Just time for a couple of changes on some things. I want to do more of some things and less of some other things. And I know that sounds really, really vague, but I'm still kind of identifying exactly what those things are. And I have a goal to spend a little bit less time in an airplane. Actually,
that's right.
It's not so much the time in the airplane, because the time in the airplane is okay. It's the time getting into the airplane and out of the airplane, meaning airport time, and that kind of stuff that gets a little tiring. But yeah, those are some of my goals, and I really want to. I need to create something next year, and I don't know quite what it is yet. I don't know if it's something I'm writing, something video wise, or
you got something stirring in you.
Yes, I do, and I don't know exactly what it is yet, but that's kind of those are on the list at the moment. I got to narrow it down. I usually spend, for sure, the week between Christmas and New Year's for me is the time where I really try to shut myself off from things. And what I've been sort of leading up to that week, sort of putting things on the list and everything and letting them percolate in my brain for a little while. That's the week, and I narrow it down that week and write out my plan for the next year, and then go to it.
Well, since you're sitting down, Ross, I don't want to shock you and make you fall over. Okay. I have a process for doing this.
Do you?
I do. And I'm
Does it
willing to
involve a
sh-
spreadsheet?
It does not, but it
At that
could.
time, look, he had to think about it. Did you see him?
Yeah, yeah,
He had
Hee
to.
hee hee, ha ha. Ho, ho.
yeah, yeah.
And if you're interested, I will be more than willing to share.
Okay, that would be
Okay.
great. I
That'd be
love. I do love a good process.
It's a very good process. I got it from someone else, and I think it adapts well to what you're thinking about doing, both personal and professional.
Is that what we did? You gave us the
It is.
yes.
Uh-oh.
See,
That's good.
see,
The what? Share.
you've done
It
it.
was the books and the that we were doing
The video
when we
Okay.
It involves videos. Wow. So
does. It's everything.
actually, the one other thing that I have found that works really, really well for me, this is kind of a personal business thing, but can be adapted to driving as well, is in that week between Christmas and New Year's, I identify 3 words that are my focus words for the following year.
Really?
Yeah. And they're words that kind of align, I guess, sometimes kind of with my values. I know that sounds all big, big being an adult, having values and everything, but
You've been kicked off the internet, Ross. You're not allowed.
Yeah,
on anymore.
I know. It's it's important to I think for me to have these 3 words. And like this year, one of my words was refresh. And I don't spend enough time or haven't in the past giving myself time just to sit and think. And when I do, good things happen. And sometimes I'm in the Bill mode of go, 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 go. And I don't take time to sit back and think about things enough. So that was kind of one of my big words this year. And I will say that I've been only partially successful with it, because when people come along and say, well, would you do this? Yeah, I usually say yes to things. And yeah, maybe one of my words should be no.
No.
That's Jennifer's
yes,
issue.
it's so much more fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So anyways, I find that the 3 words exercise a really useful thing for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well.
Captain's log supplemental.
So, Miss Vicky,
Yes, sir.
do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those grid life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on? Most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
We have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars, maybe 2.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does the
have,
Sentinel system do?
we could have 3 cameras with picture in picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
We have one listener question that we have to get to before we.
Okay.
Okay. So they were having trouble, not trouble, but they thought they could be better at racing in transitioning conditions, more so as the track went from dry to wet than from wet to dry.
Yeah.
But I think globally.
So I would say, well, for sure, every driver in the world will tell you the most difficult conditions are the mixed conditions. So you're not alone. That's the first step. I think the second step is when we're driving and we see some raindrops on the windshield or on your visor or whatever it is, it's only natural to immediately go, oh my God,
Right.
the track is going to get slippery. But guess what? Here's the big secret is it doesn't get slippery as fast as you think.
Except
And
at Mid-Ohio.
well, Mid-Ohio has its, we could have a separate discussion just about Mid-Ohio, but even Mid-Ohio, you know, where it gets very slippery in places, but it doesn't get as slippery as we think it's going to immediately.
Sure.
And you know, one way of describing it, and a friend I was talking to earlier, a driver I was talking to earlier this year talked about this, was he said, you know, imagine taking a piece of chalk and drawing a circle on the pavement, like 12 inches across, right? A circle. And it's not until that entire circle is completely wet that you might even have to start to think about the grip level going down, assuming your tires are reasonably warm or hot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on cold tires, you know, you might start to lose grip a little bit earlier, but that circle needs to be completely covered. And then, even then, hot tires on that wet surface are not going to lose as much traction as you may think. And it's not until there starts to be an accumulation of water, until there starts to be a little bit of a buildup of water on the surface, that's when you really start to lose grip. So I think the first step is just realizing that you don't lose grip as much as you think you're going to. And that's a difficult thing to convince yourself sometimes. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you need to start experimenting immediately. Like as soon as you see the rain, no, maybe not immediately, but as soon as it starts to fill that circle on the pavement,
mm-hmm.
then you need to start to experiment. And by experimenting, sometimes it's just come into the corner and deliberately turn the wheel a little bit harder, a little quicker than you would normally do. And if the car responds, guess what? You still have lots of grip.
Right.
If the car slides, worst case, all it's going to do is the front is going to understeer. It's going to push a little bit. And that's an easy thing to correct from. Rather than the come into the corner, tiptoe through the corner and go, when's it going to go? When's it going to go? When's it going to go? Oh, it didn't go. Oh, well, I just went slow through that corner for no reason. Or tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. When's it going to go? When's it go? Oh, and then it snaps and goes and it takes you by surprise. So it's that whole thing of being proactive with the car and the tires as opposed to reactive. And so that's the first thing. Obviously, you know, hey, you're going to like this. Look further ahead.
Right.
Because a lot of times, you know, especially when it first starts raining, tracks will be dry. And then all of a sudden that corner way down there, I can see it's raining down there. And the number of times drivers have been surprised when they get to a corner and all of a sudden it's wet there and they're thinking, well, that took me by surprise. Well, maybe you weren't looking far enough ahead. Maybe you weren't thinking far enough ahead. You were too much in front of you. And that is even more easy to do when it starts to rain, because you immediately, your eyes start to drop down to the pavement and thinking, how much grip do I have here? But that's when you really, again, have to remind yourself, look far ahead, plan far ahead, think about what's coming up, and then start, well, and again, being proactive about it rather than showing up on the scene of a corner that's wet and going, I wasn't expecting this. Well, if you'd been looking far ahead, maybe you would have been expecting it.
So one of the disappointments I had when we first started iRacing was there's no rain setting.
Yeah.
Is there a way to fake it? Like make the car behave like it? Like make the air pressure like 90?
I've heard talk of iRacing introducing rain all of this year, and I still don't think they've got it yet. I know Assetto Corsa does have rain. There are some other things. Yeah, I mean, you could do things like you could just go in and change the track grip level. There's a setting that you can do to do that.
Really? Okay. Maybe we don't know
Yep.
what we're doing. Well, no, there's no maybe. We don't know what we're doing.
And to be honest, I can't remember where it is in iRacing. I know I set a course again. I know it's a pretty easy setting change, but you can change track conditions.
Okay.
And so you could do that. The downside of, well, there are way more upsides in doing that
Mhm.
than there are downsides. The one downside is it's uniform. And as you know,
Yeah.
especially if you've driven mid-Ohio in the rain, there are parts of the track that lose more grip than other parts of the track. So
yes, 100%.
and the one thing that I guess the track simulations have not done well yet with rain even is, again, it's kind of a uniform thing. They basically lower the grip all the way around the track. So there is no rain line, that line that if you drive off the dry line where sometimes there might be more grip there, that doesn't necessarily or doesn't often show up on a simulated track.
But you could kind of get used to lack of grip
You can
generically.
Yes.
And practice it a little bit.
And what I would practice rather than the just, I'm going to drive around kind of, again, practicing reacting, I would practice being, again, proactive. Come into the corner and deliberately enter with just a mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, too much speed, come off the brakes just a little bit earlier than usual, induce some understeer and practice driving through that corner with some understeer. And then, it's maybe good. The front end's going to hook up a little bit, back end's going to snap out. You're going to catch that. And you can practice all of that on the sim. And that's, that's the best way to use it. Again, not just as a way to practice reacting to loss of grip. Yeah.
Seat time in the winter.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, we're making a point of doing that this year. We have a couple leagues that we can, meet up with friends.
Apparently there's settings we've never looked at, but we'll work on that.
I'm pretty sure the Google knows how to find iRacing track grip settings.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Fancy that way.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a simulator is a great place to do that. So, further on that question is, then the next part is if the track's wet and now it's starting to dry, the very first thing that I think about is if you turn 2 laps in a row that are the same speed, you're actually going slower because the track is gaining grip every single lap. So your lap time should be improving every single lap. And again, there comes a time where you've got to make that switch from you've been driving what might be the rain line. And some tracks, so I think some drivers have heard about the rain line of it being so much different than the dry line. And some tracks it is very much. Mid-Ohio is a great example of the rain line is quite extreme. But there are some other tracks where the dry line and the wet line are pretty much the same. But if you've been driving the rain line, let's use Mid-Ohio as an example, and you've been driving way offline to go where the track has some grip, you have to at some point start to make that transition back to driving the dry line. And what you hope is that some people have already started to get over there and start to dry off the dry line for you. And then you can start to gradually transition over into that. But I would also say that if you drive, this can be taken the wrong way, so I want to be a little careful how I say this, but if you drive the same line twice in the rain or in mixed conditions, you're not taking advantage of what the track has available for you.
What do you mean?
You should be experimenting. You should be moving around and trying different places on the track. You should be constantly searching for grip. And that's going to mean one time just having a car, I'm not talking opposite side of the track necessarily, but it might mean, having the car a tire width or two to the left or to the right of where you normally would be, and just gradually or constantly be looking for where the track has more grip. And, some of that you can see, some of that you can just kind of look at the surface and note that, that's shinier. You usually, but not always, shiny is less grip. If it's more grainy kind of thing, there's usually more grip there. So, it's looking for the grip and experimenting and trying to find where there's more grip. Everybody should go to Mid-Ohio and spend a day in the pouring rain there and learn how different a line you can drive and how quickly you can still go.
Jen did. I'm not sure she loved it.
I did by the end of the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, that first day was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I think I psyched you out a little bit. I warned her
Y'all have a
before.
tendency to do that.
Well, I gave her a little warning on the track before she went on in the rain. I'm like, it's no joke. And
And it's not.
Yeah.
But it was a fun track. By the end of the weekend, it was great.
And it
What's
wasn't
great about the rain is it makes you think more. I mean, you can get into a point where you're driving a track and you're driving the same line over and over and over again. This is boring. Well, I mean, not quite boring, but it's not as challenging or interesting as I've got to find a different line every single lap. I got to go searching for that grip. That's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Miss Jen, you got one?
Do I have one? Skid pad practice techniques and drills.
how about that?
How about that?
The
So we
answer
want to go
is
to a skid pad again.
the answer is yes.
Yes, all of it, right?
Go to a skid pad.
I highly recommend the skid pad.
Biggest
So-
improvement to my racing in like a day.
So let me ask, how much of that was the skill, the technique of controlling a car, and how much of it was the confidence that you gain by knowing, oh, when the car steps out, I can catch it?
That was
Both.
it.
The second one, more of the confidence?
I think for me it was. Go ahead, Jen.
I think it was both. Like, I mean, it was
Yeah.
just such a, I don't know, it just really made you understand what the car could do and how you can respond to it in a very controlled environment. And it was controlled, and that really made the biggest difference. Because sometimes when you're on the track and it's wet and you start slipping and sliding, and you don't know which direction you're going to go in. Like, at least on a skid pad, you kind of know, so and then you get to kind of feel the car. So it was, and get comfortable with it.
And the great thing about on the skid pad is usually you have more time.
Mm-hmm.
On the track, the car steps out and it's like, whoa, what just happened?
Right.
Whereas on the skid pad, it's like, oh, the car's stepping out. It's stepping out. It's stepping out. I'm controlling it. I'm not controlling it. But it's, at least you've had some time to experience it. So, I guess, the question is, what kind of drills, exercises, things should you be doing if you just happen to be driving down the road one day and went, hey, look at that. There's a skid pad over there. I'm going to go drive onto it.
There's a parking lot.
There's a parking lot.
There's
That's
a
what's-
Walmart parking
That's
lot.
what snow is called, Ross, around here. Skid pad.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
For me, so if I'm starting with somebody that's brand spanking new, never been on a skid pad ever, just drive around in a circle, turn the wheel, go. There's some understeer. Experience what understeer is, and then experience what happens when you bring the steering wheel. You actually straighten the wheel up a little bit, and because what is human nature is we turn the steering wheel, the car isn't turning as much as we want, so we turn the steering wheel more, and we get the front tires just plowing and grinding away. So if we straighten the wheels up, the car actually turns more. And that's one of the, I guess, a something that, is not instinct. So a driver needs to experience a number of times. It's pretty simple, but that's usually where I start on a skid pad. Then it's start to induce some oversteer. And depending on the car, that's going to be, it depends. It depends on the car, how you're going to get the car to oversteer. That might be just simply, a quick little blast of the throttle to cause some power oversteer. It might be get close to the limit, do a lift to transfer some load onto the front tires and off the rears to unload the rears. And then as it starts to just starts to hint at a little oversteer, then add some throttle to continue to get that oversteer to continue with some power oversteer. And then it's a game of how long can you keep that oversteer, how long can you control it and keep it going. So practicing that. Then I like to do some things where there's, whether it's 2 cones on a skid pad and you're just driving kind of like an oval around them, or you're driving a figure 8, but essentially you approach the corner where you have to brake just a little bit. And the braking then becomes a really fine touch of, because the track or the skid pad's so slippery, hopefully, it's very easy to cause the car to understeer with too much braking, or to oversteer by having too much brake on, or trail braking too much. And then you're playing with that transition of how much brake can I use to help me get the car to turn? How much is too much that's going to cause the car not to turn? And playing with that, and continuing to do that to the point where now you're starting to, you're being proactive. You're making the car either understeer or oversteer. And if you can make the car understeer or oversteer, then it's easier to be aware of what's going to cause it in real life. Do any of you golf?
Poorly.
Okay.
Putt.
I don't really, but like a bunch of years ago, I was coaching an engineer and a driver who golfed a lot. So I would go with him a few times. And one time I'm in the San Francisco airport, because I spend a lot of time in airports, and I go into a bookstore and I pick up this book called Extraordinary Golf. And I start flipping through it and reading it. And I go, oh, I need this book. And I read this golf book. And one of the pieces of advice in this book was deliberately go to a driving range and deliberately hook the ball or slice the ball. And because his theory is, and I think it's way more than theory, is his experience as a golf coach is, if you can deliberately slice the ball, that's going to help you ensure that you don't slice the ball. And it's the same kind of thing on a skid pad. You want to be able to induce understeer. You want to be able to induce oversteer in a very deliberate way, so that in the process of doing it, you learn, oh, well, that's what causes oversteer. That's what causes understeer. So then you recognize it sooner when you're on the track.
Yep.
And then, we also learn like that moment where you can catch it.
Yeah.
And there is just that brief moment and kind of pushing toward that moment just to catch it.
And isn't it a blast when
It
you
is.
catch that and it's like, whoa, I got it. And maybe eventually you don't got it, but for a while there, that's just a hoot. Yeah.
There was a couple times where they didn't get it.
Yeah, a couple. There was a lot more than a couple.
But did you find that there was I'm just not getting this. I'm just not getting it. And then click, all of a sudden it happened.
No.
I don't think we
For me,
did.
it did. For me, it did.
Well, it will.
It will. But I had fun.
I've seen thousands of drivers on a skid pad, and everybody at some point has that moment where it's like, I got it now. Now, it may not be going from I don't have it at all to perfection, but it's like, oh, I get it. I know what I need to do here. And I'm starting to get the hang of this.
I kind of moved through it. So I got to the point and recognized where I would have had it.
Yeah. Okay.
But then maybe just kept going. So I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Need a little more time. We'll get up there again.
Well, from what I understand, you guys should use some runway near your hangar.
There you go.
Just avoid the planes that are doing.
It's occupied already, apparently.
Oh, okay.
They're sending subtle hints towards us to
That's
leave.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got a question.
Okay.
Good thing we
All
have
right.
a podcast.
That's right. Well, we have an HPDE event next weekend, and we are bringing 2 brand new people, never been racing before. and they express interest. They're rally drivers, but like, you know what? I think me and my wife would like to join you guys. We extend the invitation. Brand new beginners. What are some of the things that they can do? Because they're not always going to go out with an instructor at some point. What are some of the beginner things that they can do for like drills or challenges if they have the opportunity to do as they're learning on the track? And then I'm going to follow up with the intermediate and advanced, just some quick drills.
First of all, what track?
It's going to
New
be
Jersey Lightning.
Okay, because I mean, part of it does depend on, hey, if you're at Barber Motorsport Park where there's walls everywhere, that might be a different deal than some other places. So, and you said they have some rally experience?
yes.
Not that kind of rally. It's like treasure hunt rally, not rally.
Okay. But not rally where car control be a big thing. So, okay. I guess, what would be, I think a goal for them would be for them to leave their first day having an understanding as to why you drive the line that you drive.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's obviously some risk in this, but, one of the big aha moments for a relatively new driver on a track is when they realize what happens when they turn in early and they apex early and they run out of road early.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, in a way, you almost want to hope that happens for them. But in the process, they learn, oh, I don't want to do that, because when I do that, I run out of track. So, a drill that if I've done with when I've been in the right seat with somebody is I have them deliberately turn in a little bit early. Now I have to have a certain level of trust that they're not going to panic or do something silly, and I'm going to choose the corner that they're going to do this at, but I'm going to actually encourage them to turn in early and have them experience what happens. And again, you have to be careful as to which corner you're going to do. You're not going to do that in a fast corner that's lined with a Armco barrier. Ideally, you do that in a slower corner that has some runoff room. And ideally on a corner where the exit curb is not, there isn't like a 6-inch drop off on the outside of the curbing and that kind of stuff. So it's a relatively, you got to be careful about that and a little bit safe about that. But I think as as an overall goal for the day, if they came away with a really good understanding of why you drive the line that you drive, because I think way too many drivers, they'll go through many days at the track and they drive the line that they're driving because their instructor told them to drive that one. And I think that's hey, it's a good, safe way to start. But I think what keeps people coming back to the track is the light bulb going on, right? A light bulb of understanding. And the sooner they can have that light bulb of understanding around the line, I think that's going to help them. Some secondary things would be they learn the importance of being smooth with the controls, and to your number one priority of looking further ahead, and them starting to understand that that's something that they should be practicing every day when they're driving on the road as well.
Absolutely.
So I would start there.
What about intermediate? Just some quick exercises or drills that we could work on.
I would say with an intermediate driver, mostly I would have them focus on being smooth with how they release their foot off the brake pedal. I would just have them drive the track and just say, I just want you to think about how smooth you can come off the pedal. I want you to come off the brake pedal, release the brake pedal so smoothly that I or whoever is sitting in the car with you cannot tell when you're actually come off. the pedal.
That's a good one.
And
Because I didn't realize how much did I slam the car around
hmm,
from not being smooth.
yeah, and that just makes the car respond to the driver, and it's
Mhm.
going to give them way more confidence. And it starts to build that sensitivity in the foot and calf and ankle and all that, the muscles of the leg down there that are controlling the brake pedal, which is the same one for most people that they use on the gas pedal as well. So they become a little smoother with the throttle as well. But on the road, we developed these habits of kind of using the pedals as on-off switches. Maybe the gas pedal not quite as much, but the brake tends to be, I'm on the brakes, I'm off the brakes. And that's where I would really focus, I think, on the for an intermediate driver, just as a simple drill like that.
Right. That's a good one. Now, what about advanced?
The neglected girls and guys who are stuck. They're good.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, intermediate, and then the next level after that. I wouldn't say advanced, but
Yeah,
Oh. Everybody could get better.
are we all truly advanced?
yes.
There's a couple people who are slightly more advanced than we are.
Well, and I'm trying to be so generic here,
Mhm.
to kind of capture what is advanced. I mean, advanced one. Anyways, no more excuses. I've got to give you something here.
Somebody who's potentially an instructor, maybe a beginning racer, maybe a semi-seasoned racer, that maybe they've hit a plateau. Maybe there's something that you've seen that everybody could get a little better.
Well, I would focus on braking. I mean, I would focus on them understanding where it's important to be lighter on the brakes and where it's important to be harder on the brakes, while still continuing to have a nice smooth release. And then I'd go to one of my standby exercises, and that is just asking them what percentage of the lap they spend at full throttle. And whatever number they come back with, whether they say I'm at full throttle 40% of the lap or 80% of the lap or whatever it is, I'd say, okay, now spend 3% more of the lap at full throttle. I just want you to be aware of where are you not at full throttle where you could be, even if it's just for a fraction of a second between corners. If it's just at a fraction of a second coming out of the corner where you get to full throttle a little sooner, whether it's staying at full throttle just that fraction of a second longer before going to the brakes, and have them focus on that. And rarely does a driver not find something by doing that. So if a driver is on a plateau, a lot of times that one works.
So I've got two things to augment that. The one thing that drives me crazy, especially with the people who've been driving for a long time, especially if it's their home track, they just do lap, 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 lap. I mean, you could basically draw a line where their tires are, and they don't try anything.
Yeah.
Just try something new. Don't do 1,000 laps over the weekend, the exact same lap, because there's obviously something you could do better. And the second one, there's it's a little bigger than this, my cell phone. And it's really good at finding things that you may or may not have tried or may not have, that can, even if you borrow a Garmin from somebody. We've got two at the track every time. And that little box, especially if you're good, finds, I haven't ever seen it come up and say, yep, you're good. Nice job.
You're done.
Yeah, that was awesome. I learned so much from you. Thank you for taking me with you. It could be tenths or 0.2, but it always seems to find something, and you try it and it's like, yeah, that did work.
Well, the interesting thing about the Garmin Catalyst is it doesn't tell you to do anything that you haven't already done. But the thing is that, to your point of, some people drive so consistently that, but still every now and then they'll make a small error, and sometimes that error will actually be better. And the Catalyst can find things that will notice a 1/10 of a second improvement, and from that it will encourage you to do more of that. And then as you do more of that, it might encourage you to keep going even with that even further. So I ever told you about the blind squirrel test that I want to try?
No.
You have, but the girls will be entertained.
Oh, okay. So I have a theory that if you took a person straight off the street who had never been on a racetrack in their life, they'd never watched a race on TV, they had no concept of driving on track whatsoever, and you put them in a car and you put a Garmin Catalyst in the car and you said, just go drive around the track, whatever way you want. And the person would drive around the track, and you know what would happen? They would drive on the right side of the track, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then they'd make a small error as they're going around, let's say a left-hand corner, and they would cross what would be the center line of the track. And every time it did that, the Catalyst would encourage that driver to do more of that and would say, you know, turn earlier, move to the left more. It would keep it, and eventually that blind squirrel would find the nut of the line and would actually drive around the track on line, just by the Catalyst encouraging them to do more of what they were doing before. So one of these days, I got to go and try this. Bill, maybe you and I will do this someday.
That's not a problem.
When you move into my place with all your cars.
Your car and data.
I'm only a Porsche away from your house, Ross,
And your simulator.
and my sim. Yeah,
Yeah.
You're
yeah.
two simulators now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
it's just one. We're just upgrading. It's a little bit.
Oh.
Okay.
Miss Jen, you got one more for the night?
I do. I can
All
find
right.
one. We'll find a good one.
Thank you so
Oh.
much, Ross.
I know.
You're so helpful.
This is always fun.
I get so many ahas. Like after I get off of here.
Okay, so here's some. When things go bad, what to do? For example, one wheel off, two wheel off, all wheels off. Tank slapper.
Thanks,
Uh,
Slapper.
Highly recommend screaming and panicking. That always works, right? Yeah.
I think the most important part of this question is the last one, which is
The wall.
when to save and
Save.
when to fail.
When to save and when to bail.
And you know what the answer to that is going to be.
Oh, I think I knew. I think I do.
It depends.
Depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
So usually what to do is less is more is one way of thinking about it. And I think if we go back and watch a video that we watched earlier
Oh,
in the
allow me.
podcast, I think there was some correction and then some overcorrection. And
Or-
the
Or maybe
driver
correction and no pause.
yeah,
No
the
recovery.
driver got behind in her steering is one way of thinking about it. Yeah. So very first thing, you know, two wheels off, keep your hands straight, drive straight in the dirt for a while. It's not going to hurt the car like snapping the car back on the track. So that's number one priority is keep the car straight and drive with two wheels in the dirt for a while. And human instinct says, get back on the track as fast as we can. And that's usually the wrong thing to do. So first thing is do less, just drive straight. The other thing is usually when you go off a track, you snap your foot off the gas pedal, you might even hammer the brakes, all those kinds of things. Again, the less you do, the better. If, you know, a good example of that is when the car hydroplanes. If you're driving down the highway and your car hits a big puddle, the less you do, the better you're going to be. If you quickly try to jerk the steering wheel to try to control that, or snap your foot off the gas pedal, or snap or pound on the brake pedal or something, that's just going to exaggerate the problem, make it worse. So the less you do there, the better. There is that point where you're correcting it. You know, if the back end of the car snaps out, you're catching it. And there is that point where you got to kind of go, I'm not going to be able to catch this. I'm going to let it go. Because if you do keep trying to catch it, by the time you get the car all the way to opposite lock and the car starts snapping around, usually the back of the car is going to snap back around the other direction faster than you can actually unwind the wheel and go back the other direction with the wheel. But I would say,
is that even if you let go of the wheel, like one of our hosts?
I am not a fan of letting go of the wheel.
Yes.
Have I accidentally let go of the steering wheel? Probably. To me, letting go of the wheel is very, well, it's not deliberate. And I think you're just leaving things up to chance at that point. And yes, I know there is a point in there where the car will self-correct. The steering will self-correct because of the caster in the car, but I don't believe that 9 times out of 10, it's going to correct quick enough. So I think just letting go of the wheel, it's not quick enough. A couple other things, I guess, is we talk about being smooth at the wheel, and I always talk about, you want to initiate the steering smooth and slow, but when the car needs correction, you need to react quickly. So it's initiate slow, but react fast. And a lot of drivers who haven't spent time on a skid pad, I find that I'll watch a video of them in the back end of the car snaps out, and they're kind of like, oh, I'll get it. I'll catch it. I'll catch it. I'll catch it. Oh, I didn't catch it. If they as soon as the rear end of the car snapped out, they're like, okay, I caught it. Okay, now I can get going here again. So that's a time where quick hands pays off. Do a Google search or a YouTube search for Colton Herta, the Indy Grand Prix course in the IndyCar earlier this year. The catch that he made with the steering wheel, and some people would say he almost let go of the wheel, but I don't think he ever let go of it. But it was just so quick. That guy's hands are so quick.
Wow.
Pato O'Ward is the same way. Like, watch a couple of those, how fast they turn the steering wheel to catch things, and it is impressive. So there comes a time where, yes, you want to be slow and smooth the steering wheel, but when it comes time to catch it, you got to move the wheel quickly. So that, and I guess the final big part of this thing is, no matter what, no matter how far out of control the car is, no matter what, keep looking to where you want to go. And it's really easy to say that, and it's not easy to do when your car's life is passing before your eyes. It's really easy to look at, where am I going to crash? And a lot of times you speed up the chances that you speed up the crash. You get there sooner than you would have had you kept looking down the road. Jennifer, it would have been really interesting looking at what happened to you earlier at Charlotte. Would have been really interesting to have eye tracking device on and watch where your eyes were going, because, and I can't, it's impossible for me to guess even where your eyes were going, but there is a chance that at one point the car snapped sideways, you're now facing the wall, your instinct is catch it big time, you put a ton of wheel in, and then your eyes are now facing the other direction because the car snapped around so quickly, it almost snapped your head and your eyes around to where you don't want to go. And it's really difficult in that whipping back and forth, the tank slapper, it's almost violent, and it's hard to keep your eyes and your head pointed to where you want to go. But if you practice that and drill it in and program that, you will get better at looking to where you want to go.
Is there a way to practice faster hands?
Simulator?
I was going to go autocross, but yeah, that works too, I guess.
Autocross for sure. I mean, it helps. The thing that you want to do is, this is kind of tricky, is you actually want to practice getting out of control and then catching it. And that's not usually the intent of an autocross. The intent
you haven't seen us autocross, Ross.
True, that is true. Yes. Yeah.
The in training comes in all forms of motorsports.
Right. Yeah. It's but yeah, autocross teaches you to have quick hands. The downside is it teaches you to have quick hands on the entry to the corner, the initiation of the turn.
Yes.
And that's the thing on a road course, a lot of times, where people who come with a lot of autocross experience, they have to learn to slow that down. And because on a road course, your initial turn of the steering wheel is relative to autocross is slower. And so while you definitely get quicker hands, you want to get quicker hands in the right place. Again, thinking about it as initiate slow, but react fast, not initiate fast, react fast. And here's the one downside of practicing things on a simulator is a lot of people on a simulator will find themselves, they'll drop wheels off the edge of the track, they'll start to spin, and it's just really easy to give up because it's really easy just to hit reset and start all over again. And with drivers that I coach on a simulator, I will a lot of times as they're spinning, I will be saying, catch it, keep going. Like keep your hands controlling that car, keep your head pointing where you want to go and looking to where you want to go, no matter what, until the car has impact. And then just before impact, you take your hands off the wheel. And if you're going to practice in a simulator, practice the right things. I see way too many sim drivers, like I said, start to spin and they just give up, kind of take their hands off the wheel and start going for the reset button. Don't do that. Practice catching it all the way until there's going to be contact and then take your hands off the wheel.
Miss Vicky, you going to wrap it up for the evening?
I am. Self-diagnosis of driving. How and what to look for and prioritize.
Whoa. Doesn't that kind of go back to the very beginning when I was saying, asking the questions of ask yourself, what do you do well? And then as you pointed out, keep like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Dig deeper, dig deeper, dig deeper. And then, the same thing with, okay, if I could fix one thing, what would it be? Okay, then dig deeper again. I think that's certainly the self-diagnosis part of it, I think. Sure, you can use video and data. You can use the Catalyst, and the Catalyst will actually tell you what the top 3 things you should be working on are. But if you don't have that technology, those questions, I think, is the way to go.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ross.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You have been so helpful. I have so many ahas after you've been on.
They're not ha-has?
Well, they're ha-has and yayas.
Yeah.
And ahas.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, seriously, I get a lot out of it.
Well, I always have fun with you guys. This is good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's cool that this podcast is, I think it is so well targeted to your audience.
Nobody else listens, Ross.
And you told me the audience are that 3 people. Are they the same 3?
No, there's a couple that don't have our last names now. We're
Wow.
moving on up, buddy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of been like, documenting our, journey as a team. So it is kind of cool. Like if you go back to the very, very beginning.
Yeah, we've got some early episodes where Vicky was talking, especially. She's got this one, the way she referred to going around a turn. Now she looks back and she's like, I was not educated at that point.
I was pretty darn. Yeah, I was not. I can't say I was stupid. I was just like, I was not educated.
But it's been kind of cool, like just to look at how far we've come.
I know.
Do you go back and listen to the first few episodes every now and then?
I do. I'm not sure.
We should. We should. I think we should. I'm probably going to do that on my next long trip.
Yeah, there you go.
Vicky doesn't
funny.
listen to the podcast a whole lot. She's like, I was there.
I was there when you listened for.
Yeah. No, I do listen to them on and off.
She does.
Yeah, I have a hard time listening to my podcast. So
Well, we don't, Ross. We listen to it every time. I think
Yes.
I'm on my 7th lap now, sir.
yeah.
Mhm.
I do.
Well, they've been fun doing these no dumb questions podcasts with Jeff Brown.
Oh yeah.
Jeff is, he and I have a blast. The best thing about them is it's a little bit like this for me is there's no prep.
Right.
It's just, we get on, we go, here's 2 questions, go. And we answer these questions and that's it. So we have fun doing that.
Well, as you know, if you ever run out of dumb questions, we've got a doc that's got over 600 of them. And you can ask for as many as you want. We can keep you many episodes of your podcast,
Well,
Ross.
we have a Google Doc as well.
Ooh,
Yeah. Jeff's an engineer.
yeah, I relate.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he's got a graph of the number of questions that have come in or whatever. But so we have a list, but we've got a few of them that are they're overlapping so much. It's like we need a couple of fresh ones. So if you got a couple of really interesting ones,
I can't promise
send them
they're
my way.
interesting. You said dumb questions, Ross. You didn't say interesting questions.
Well, Jeff and I always make it pretty clear that none of the questions are dumb. It's just the answers we give are dumb. So,
well,
yeah, we should change it to dumb answers.
Ah,
I don't know if anybody would tune into that. So
you got to under promise and over deliver, Ross, and that would definitely be doing so.
yeah.
Speed secrets and dumb answers.
Yeah,
right.
I like it.
I'm not quite sure that's going to make the top 10 list of your best T-shirts you've got. You know what our personal favorite is? The one with the excuses on the back.
Yeah.
That one.
That
That's
was
a good
hilarious. The last one we use a lot all the time. I ran out of talent.
I ran out of time. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It always happens. But well, Mr. Bentley, in case people enjoyed listening to you go on, is there some places that they can go either get the written word or the spoken word for you?
Just my website, speedsecrets.com, and my podcast, Speed Secrets Podcast, whatever that is, on the
Everywhere.
podcast webs or whatever it is. I don't know where they exist, but there, and then simraceracademy.com. So if you're into sim racing, and there's obviously a huge overlap between those two, but been doing a lot more of the sim racer coaching stuff. So and actually one of my other goals for next year is I intend to do more webinars again. This year I got 2 webinars in early this year.
I think there was 2.
Yeah, and I really enjoy doing those. And I just this year with travel and schedules and everything, it just didn't work out with me getting much of those other than those first 2. But next year I'm hoping to do a few more of them because I love doing those.
You know what else would be fun, Ross? I'm not telling you what to do, just requesting.
Tell me what to do.
More track walks with Peter.
Yes. Peter and I need to figure out a way to do them without us having to be in the same place. And that we started doing them that way. And we like that format because Peter and I have a good time doing them together, but it's not very logistically, it's a big challenge.
It is.
He and I live on opposite coasts, and between my travel and his travel and everything else, we struggle. But yes, we need to get more of those done.
Yeah,
no more excuses.
There's a few tracks. I might have a way for you to do that. I'll have to ponder. Let me think about it.
Yeah.
Ross, until you get tired of answering our emails, we will continue to ask you every 50 episodes. And obviously, if you're ever bored and want to come on in between, open door for us. And we do appreciate it. And thank you for coming on and celebrating number 400.
Thank you. And congrats on 400. We'll see you at 450 for sure.
At least.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Ross.
Thanks, Ross.